Today is my 100th episode. Now, when I first started this podcast in July of 2023, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no background in podcasting, editing, marketing, social media, or any of the things that come with running a podcast. But I knew I had something important to share with my friends and colleagues who were being asked the same things that I was. The only difference is I had the answers. I'm Colleen Sloan, a PA, dietitian, and your nutrition mentor. This is the Exam Room Nutrition Podcast, your guide to giving better nutrition advice. For today's special episode, I want to share a bit about my journey and some tips I've learned along the way. At presentations to PA programs and dietetics programs, one of the most common questions I get is, why did you decide to become a PA? Now, I'll share that journey with you, but I think it's important to hear my story from even before that, becoming a dietitian and how those experiences shaped who I am today. So if you're a dietitian thinking about becoming a PA, this episode is for you. Or if you're a PA thinking about starting a podcast, I got you. But hold on, even if you're neither of those people, before you click off and go start another podcast, you'll want to stick around because I'll be sharing 10 of my top nutrition tips that I share with patients almost daily. These are things I've picked up during my 14 years of clinical experience. Being that it's episode 100, I thought about sharing 100 tips, but that might be a super long episode. Now, when someone asks me, so what do you do? It's kind of awkward to answer. Do I say I'm a pediatric physician assistant who takes care of children from birth to 21? Or that I'm a registered dietitian who teaches families how to create balanced meals that foster healthy weight and healthy relationships with food? Maybe I go with, I'm a podcaster who teaches medical professionals how to discuss nutrition with their patients. Or to be really popular with Gen Alpha, maybe I say I'm a content creator who shares nutrition tips on social media. So how did I become all these things? Let's back it up to 2008. My second year in college. I was really stressing about choosing my degree. I had been an athlete my whole childhood, from gymnastics for about 12 years and then volleyball. So I thought being a physical therapist would be pretty cool. I actually wanted to work with children with disabilities and build a comprehensive treatment center. Now, one day I was sitting at TGI Fridays with my dad, telling him my grand plans as any 18-year-old does. And he said, Colleen, you're so smart. Why don't you become a doctor? And a light bulb went off. Yeah, I could do that, I thought. But then I still had to choose my degree. I could be like every other pre-med student and go with biology. But I hated biology. It was my least favorite science class. And none of the other sciences felt right or excited me either. Then one day, my mom, who was a college textbook sales rep, invited me to visit one of her campuses in Miami and meet some professors in the nutrition department. As I met with the professors and walked the halls of FIU Nutrition and Dietetics, I just knew. This is it. I want to study nutrition and become a registered dietitian. Now, before that day, I didn't even know what a dietitian was. But by the time I left, I was completely sold and I applied to transfer the next day. So I graduated from Florida International University in 2011 with a bachelor's in nutrition and dietetics. But I want to give you a peek into my personal life and a side note for anyone who feels like their life didn't go exactly as planned. I became pregnant in my junior year. I pumped in the bathroom of the chemistry building because the nursing room was 2 miles across campus, and my dad drove my infant daughter around campus while she napped so I could take my final exams. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. That includes the inner voice inside your head. And don't let your circumstances get in the way of achieving your goals. You can totally do anything you set your mind to. So fast forward to my days as a dietitian, I started out working in several hospitals, covering a variety of floors, including the trauma ICU, for about 3 years. Then I opened a private practice doing weight management and diabetes counseling. But I had that feeling like something wasn't right. Then a dear friend and someone I highly respect, Lucille Bessler, asked me to work with her at a large children's hospital in their 3 outpatient clinics. We were the dietitians for the cleft and craniofacial team, the cystic fibrosis team, and the dialysis team. And I loved everything about it. the pre-clinic discussions with the medical team, the complexity of each case, but I especially loved the kids. This is where I truly light up. Working with children and families brought me so much joy. But I had that itch again. I wanted more. I wanted to talk about more than nutrition. I wanted to understand more about diseases and how they're treated. I wanted more autonomy, more knowledge, and a bigger role on the patient's team. Now, because I had worked on so many medical teams in so many different environments, I had a good sense of the different roles of an MD, a PA, and an NP. I knew the time commitments each would take and was leaning toward PA. So I made a conscious effort to chat with every PA I could and ask what they loved and hated about their job. I needed to be sure before jumping into this. And after every conversation, I was sold. I wanted to be a PA. I told my family my plan because I needed their help with my daughter. Now, at this time, my daughter was 5 and starting kindergarten, and I was 27 and a single mom. Another reminder that it's never too late to go after your goals. So in 2014, I applied to the only PA school near me, Nova Southeastern University, and was accepted. The years from 2015 to 2017 were some of the most challenging of my life. Being a full-time student and mom was extremely hard. But I am a firm believer that moms are superhumans and we can do ridiculously hard things. I committed to being the same mom I was before PA school started while in PA school. So I still had family dinners every night. I tucked my daughter into bed every night. But that also meant that I missed study sessions and after exam parties. It meant really late nights and early mornings. But I'm proud to say that in 2017, I graduated and passed my boards with flying colors. And I've been a pediatric PA with the same company for 8 years now. And this is just where things get good. Not long into my career as a PA, I realized I was getting asked more nutrition questions than when I worked as a full-time dietitian. As weird as that sounds, it's true. In almost every visit, patients were asking about nutrition, weight, or something that could be managed by nutrition, like constipation, reflux, or picky eating. Then my company asked if I would do a company-wide presentation on discussing nutrition and weight management for kids. Apparently, they'd been getting complaints about the insensitive way in which children's weight was discussed. I happily agreed and titled the presentation, "Stop Calling Me Fat, a Sensitive Approach to Pediatric Weight Management," and presented it at our nationwide quarterly meeting. After that, colleagues reached out asking for my advice on other nutrition-related topics. I realized that although explaining nutrition to patients came really easy to me, my colleagues were lost. Thinking back to PA school, other than a few slides sprinkled into disease lectures, and the lecture I gave about nutrition, that was it. But at this time, I didn't even consider starting a podcast. But that all changed one Saturday morning. I walked into the office and quickly walked down the hallway to grab the chart of my first patient. I stood outside the exam room door and glanced at the chart briefly. The chief complaint was rash. Thank God, I thought. It would be relatively easy because I was starting the day already a bit behind. But when I walked in, the young boy, about 9 years old, was crying. Now, this isn't unusual for a pediatric clinic, but he wasn't getting a shot that day. So calmly, I asked, why was he crying? His mother told me that at his previous well check, about 4 months prior, the provider told him that he needed to lose weight by the next visit or he was going to get diabetes and need to take shots. So this young boy had been restricting his food intake, weighing himself daily, and avoiding all sweets because he didn't want diabetes. When he stepped on the scale in the office and saw that he'd gained 3 pounds, he was devastated and scared of what I was going to say. In that moment, my heart sank. This prepubescent boy, who should be gaining weight, had developed disordered eating patterns as the result of a flippant comment from a previous clinician. That wasn't okay. And I'm sure the provider meant no harm, and in their mind was probably being really helpful, because it is our job to guide patients toward healthier behaviors, and that includes having tough conversations about their diet and weight. But at the end of that day, I knew I needed to share my nutrition knowledge and communication skills with others. I wanted to help patients like that young boy get the nutrition advice that would uplift and encourage them on the right path. I wanted to help my colleagues feel confident answering their patients' questions, to give them accurate information that goes beyond saying, eat your fruits and vegetables, or hey, maybe you should lose weight. I wanted to teach providers how to navigate sensitive topics like weight management, eating disorders, and picky eating without causing more shame and guilt around food. So in June 2023, I went where we all go to learn something new: YouTube. I binged videos on how to start a podcast and all the crazy details that go into it. I bought the bare minimum equipment and recorded my first episode. And here we are, 602 days since my first episode was launched on July 5th, 2023. Now, my first episodes aren't great. I was still learning all the tech. And to be honest, I've still got a long way to go. But it's my deepest desire to teach you something that you can share with your patients that makes you feel like you made a difference and makes your patients feel like they can do this. So thanks for being here on this journey and celebrating episode 100 with me. So what's coming in 2025? This year will be really exciting for the podcast. I've already launched a private community called Nutrition Grand Rounds, monthly live workshops designed to help us stay current on all things nutrition. Now, we've already covered bone health and nutrition and PCOS, and this month we'll be discussing nutrition interventions for mental health disorders. So if you'd like to join us, just go to nutritiongrandrounds.com to learn more and sign up. I'm also finishing up a course on nutrition for obesity medicine, which will be approved for 13 CEUs. A lot of you have been asking for a course like this, and so it will walk you through nutrition counseling for weight management, including anti-obesity medication use, and I've rounded up some of the nation's leading experts in obesity care as the speakers. The waitlist is currently open as I finalize a few things, so if you'd like to be notified when it's available to purchase, you can sign up for the waitlist at examroomnutrition.com/course. Now, I'll link to both of those down in the show notes below. All right, enough about me. As promised, here are 10 lessons I've learned about nutrition counseling. These are the ones I wish someone had told me when I was just starting out. Number 1, listen first. Patients will tell you what they need if you let them. As a dietitian, I've found that when I start by asking, what's the main thing I can help you with today? Instead of launching into advice, patients reveal crucial information. One patient mentioned almost in passing that she couldn't afford fresh produce. This information completely changed my approach to her meal planning. Number 2, ask permission. Always. This builds trust faster than anything else. So before discussing sensitive topics like weight, simply ask, would it be okay if we discussed your weight today? This small courtesy shows respect and gives patients agency. I've seen patients physically relax when given this choice. This can be done prior to weighing the patient, before you give any advice, or even before you talk about nutrition. Number 3, one diet doesn't work for everyone. Generic advice is lazy and unhelpful, and please do not give it. I had a patient who tried keto, Mediterranean, and vegan diets without success. When we explored his lifestyle, he was a traveling salesman with really irregular hours, we created a flexible approach focused on portion control and restaurant strategies that finally worked for him. So get to know your patient and find out what's worked in the past and what definitely wouldn't work. I like to ask them, what has worked for you before? And you can use their own success as a guide. Number 4, don't waste time creating meal plans, even if your patient asks for them. I wish someone would have told me this 12 years ago when I spent countless hours creating customized meal plans. And this was way before ChatGPT. Your patient won't follow it, I promise you. Just provide them guidelines instead. I like to teach flexible frameworks like the plate method or something similar that patients can apply to various situations, from home cooking to restaurant dining. Number 5, build awareness. Have your patient track their food intake for just 2 to 3 days to identify patterns. One patient did this and she realized she was drinking over 600 calories daily in sugar-sweetened coffee drinks alone. This self-discovery was way more powerful than any advice I could have given her. This awareness building can also be done by teaching patients how to read food labels. There's so much one can learn by simply looking at what a food contains. Now, if you need a refresher on food label reading, I'll link to a blog post I wrote in the show notes so you can feel confident when discussing this with your patients. Number 6, focus on one change at a time. Small wins build momentum. I had a patient who successfully reduced soda intake from 6 cans daily to 1 by focusing solely on this change for a month before tackling any other dietary issues. His blood sugar improved significantly from this single change. Number 7, start with what they're already doing. Build and improve from there. When I compliment a patient on already eating breakfast daily, they're more receptive when I suggest improving its nutritional quality. This positive reinforcement approach maintains confidence while encouraging improvement. Number 8, prioritize fiber. Beyond just saying eat more fruits and vegetables, I recommend specific strategies like adding frozen berries to morning oatmeal, keeping pre-cut vegetables on hand, or using beans as the base for family taco night. One patient lowered her cholesterol by 20 points by just increasing fiber intake. Now, I know protein is all the rage, and yes, it is important, especially during calorie deficits or weight loss regimens, but most patients have a good understanding of how to get more protein. Help them with fiber. This will benefit them in so many different ways. Number 9, celebrate non-scale victories. Those moments matter more than the numbers do. I encourage patients to notice improvements in energy, sleep, mood, and clothing fit. One patient was really discouraged by losing only 5 pounds, but she lit up when discussing how she could now play actively with her grandchildren without getting winded. Zoom in on those achievements and victories. It will mean much more for your patient, and it will help them stay consistent in the long run. And number 10, offer 2 options, not 10. Then let the patient choose. By offering options, you avoid going back and forth with your patient when they become defensive. Now, in motivational interviewing, this is known as the ask, offer, ask technique, and it starts with asking permission, then offering options, and finally asking which option they prefer. This approach sidesteps the resistance that often happens when we tell patients what to do. Instead of saying, oh, you need to cut out soda, which might trigger an argument about why they can't, the ask, offer, ask method creates collaboration. This respects their autonomy and prevents that defensive back and forth that wastes precious appointment time. And honestly, it's really frustrating to go back and forth with the patient. When I work with busy parents, I might say, we could either focus on healthier snacks for your kids or making family dinners more nutritious and a priority. Which feels more manageable to you right now? Now, by limiting choices, the patients feel empowered rather than overwhelmed. One mom told me this approach was the first time the nutrition advice didn't make her feel like a failure. And that's a win in my book. Now, because I just can't stick to 10 tips, here's a bonus tip. Number 11, recognize your own limits. You don't have to have all the answers. Refer to a dietitian if you don't have the time or resources to fully help your patient. I've seen providers try to tackle complex nutrition issues in 15-minute appointments, which often leads to frustration for everyone involved. I promise you there is no shame in saying, this deserves more attention than we can give it today. Let me connect you with someone who specializes in this area. Your patients will appreciate your honesty and the appropriate referral. These lessons have shaped how I work with clinicians and patients. I hope you found them useful. Now, one of my mentors once told me, if you can't explain what you do in one clear sentence, you don't really know what you do. That advice changed everything for me. So here's how I answer when someone asks me, what do you do? I'm a dietitian-turned-PA who hosts Exam Room Nutrition, a podcast and newsletter that helps clinicians give better nutrition advice to their patients. How you answer this question can open doors or end conversations before they start. So how would you answer that question? I hope you enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about me and my journey. Thank you so much for being here for 100 episodes. It's my hope to do hundreds more. As always, let's continue to make our patients healthier, one exam room at a time. I'll see you next time.